Recording now.
Sounds good. Cool. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining. We are trying to experiment with some new things for community observations this year. And so we are making this a little bit of a kickoff, inaugural meeting of the year. New year, new us. And we kind of want to just make this a very casual conversation about like a real chat on 2020, postmortem, debrief, retro, however you want to frame it, and also talk about some personal, professional goals for 2023 now that we've had officially 1 month to settle in since it's the last day of the month. And also wanted to share some ideas and things for future goals for community observations as well. All right. Also, if you're not part of our Luma community, go ahead and join that. Although just a heads up, we might be migrating soon. So we'll be sure to let you know on that as well. And I did actually write 2022. So I just thought that would be really funny to add there. Quick intro for, I think I know most of y'all in here, but for those who don't know me, I'm Tiffany Oda. I am based in San Francisco. It's cold here right now. I'm at Tiffy Oda on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I'm the COO at Talkbase. We are a startup focusing on building a platform for community operations. Loves right now, concerts, IRL community. I loved meeting everybody last year at CMX Summit, which is when this picture was taken. Also, we have a couple like IRL meetups coming up just in the community space that I'm really looking forward to. And travel, I actually just booked tickets for a Europe trip in April last night. So that's top of mind. Current ops project, we are launching an affiliate program for our at Talkbase, and it's a very community focused as well. So working on all of kind of the logistics on, the applications, the reviewing. We created a certification, how to track where our affiliates are in their onboarding progress, and also like the platform to how to pay out commission for referrals. So that is the product that I'm currently working on. Cassie?
That is exciting. I am excited to hear more about that. And I wrote it in the chat, but congrats again on COO at Talkbase.
Oh, hey.
I'm so excited for you. I am Cassie. I'm located in Austin, Texas. For those of you who don't know, I've been at Atlassian the last 5.5 years. Feels like forever. But my loves right now are sports, and I want to caveat that with like, I don't watch sports on TV. I just watch my little humans play sports, and that's what I like to do. And then coffee, I got an espresso for Christmas. So if you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, you might see me putting together some cool little concoctions and then feeling extremely hyper after. You don't catch that content though. But my current ops projects are right now, my team, Victoria is on the call. So shout out to you, Victoria. She knows a lot about this. This week, we launched a new content platform, a really asset management platform. Victoria will correct me. It is an asset management platform. But basically, we are creating a system where Atlassians can filter all their customer-facing content into this platform. And our leaders are able to go in and filter, search, whatever, and have on-brand presentations and logos and graphics. So we're excited about that. That launched this week, and we are currently onboarding our new swag vendor and open. It is also a platform. So just doing that right now.
You got some exciting ops projects going on.
Yeah, a lot of new stuff, which it's always exciting to ship something new for us and leaders. Awesome. So we'll move into our meeting logistics now that you know who we are. We just have a few housekeeping rules. We just ask that everybody be respectful and kind to everybody, that cameras are optional. We are still these days on Zoom majority of the time. So understand if you want to go off camera. We are people who love discussion in the chat. If you don't want to come off mute, do want to come off mute, please feel free to do that. But yeah, any way that you want to jump in, please feel free. It's a casual chat. And we are recording this session, as you all heard at the beginning, because we promised somebody. So these sessions are recorded. If you would just want to share or play back anything later, it will be living in our Luma library community.
We did have a question on how you spell the name of the swag vendor, and I just want to make sure that was right, Cassie.
Yes, you are. That is And that is the right link. So thank you.
Okay. Cool. All right. So 2022 post-mortem, that was a whole year. Cassie, how did your year go? How was it from a personal perspective?
Oh man.
Year 2.2 million of the pandemic, it feels like.
I know. I would say my year was, well, you know what? Let me not fake it for y'all. I'm like, I feel like last year was a little bit of a struggle. Personally, nothing like really super bad happened. It was just, a one-woman show before Victoria joined my team. Just trying to balance work and personal life. And it became really hard last year. I wanted to be like, I am a very optimistic person. Like, it was great. We did great. I mean, like I said, nothing bad happened, but just keeping it real. Last year was a realization moment for me that I need to balance my life a little bit better, work and life. But I would say if I'm going down a bullet point, and I'll pass it over to you for your biggest learning or just how it went. But for work, I would say my biggest learning / mistake would be planning we have a corporate conference every year in Vegas in April. It is called Team. So this year it is Team 23. And that's like our flagship corporate conference. And we have ancillary programs there for our community leaders. So we'll have like a happy hour. We have a dinner and award ceremony. We have a workshop on site. And last year, I learned a lot, obviously, because I planned that all by myself. But I think because I was planning it by myself, there were just a lot of little mistakes. Nothing crazy that blew up the entire thing, but looking back, it was like, oh, why didn't I think about sending this out before, or what have you? So I would say Team 23 was my biggest learning and biggest mistakes that I ultimately learned from. But personal, I learned that kind of going back to how I opened this up, I need to spend a little bit more quality time with the fam. But what about you, Tiff?
2022 was an interesting year for me. I think, as I'm sure many of you know, I was working at Benify. I don't know, they with jobs is always interesting, but Benify is a cybersecurity company, and I was brought on in, I think it was like May 2021, recruited over from my Salesforce manager, Holly Firestone, and also got to work with one of my other colleagues from Salesforce, Sophia. And, it was a very big transition moving from Benify to Benify from Salesforce. I didn't think I was ever going to leave the Salesforce Trailblazer community team. Was really, really happy there, but kind of the thought of being able to build a community from scratch from an already very, a company that's been around for a while and has been established was really interesting for me. From a community standpoint, it was very interesting. I think the cybersecurity space is very difficult to foster that sense of people wanting to help one another and sharing best practices and putting content out there. Everyone was so very locked down on like, we don't want to show our vulnerabilities. We have competitors that are in the community that we don't want to, share, trade secrets with. So it was very hard to kind of like coax them out of their shells and getting them participating in the community. There was, before COVID and before I had joined, there was an in real life conference that we had, and people were chatting and, networking, and it was very good in person. But once you kind of brought that to an online virtual format, it was just very, very difficult. So coming up with programming, obviously we launched the community. There was a lot of operational things that we had to do, coupled with the engagement and the moderation part of it. As kind of a 2.5 person team, since Holly was on the exec team and was doing a lot of like leadership things, it was very just like a lot. Also, community being new at Benify, we still had to work a lot on getting internal buy-in from stakeholders and educating people on what the community is and how to participate, and trying to convince them that, support case deflection is a good thing for the support team. It's not putting them out of a job. It's allowing them to focus more on, those customers that need the extra hand holding, and maybe the ones who have purchased the upper tier support. So just a lot of things going on. While I was doing that, I also started working as a strategic consultant at Talkbase, and that was really cool. I think obviously I joined full-time later on, so I really liked it there. But, you know, being able to kind of provide strategic direction on the product from a community operations standpoint, looking to think about the day-to-day struggles that people have. Hi. Did you want to add something, Diego?
No, I'm sorry. I was reading something and I didn't know I was.
Okay, I thought you were just really excited about Talkspace. Cool, yeah. So, you know, started doing that, and then in November, I was actually impacted by the layoffs that everybody else was in the industry was, you know, going through as well. So that I think was really important to share my journey and making sure that, you know, anybody else who's been impacted and in that situation doesn't feel shame, doesn't feel embarrassed. It's not a reflection of you or your performance. And so I wanted to kind of like share my story on that. So I wrote a couple LinkedIn posts and blog articles on that. And then I joined Talkspace full-time officially Jan 2, so not a 2022 thing, but I had signed everything in December. So yeah, it was kind of a journey. Thanks for letting me talk for like 5 minutes.
No, you definitely had like not a roller coaster, I wouldn't say, but it was a journey. Journey is a good way to put it, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But thanks for sharing and for that reminder, because I know a lot of people are going through those layoffs right now. So it is a good reminder.
Yeah, I think I just saw HubSpot go through one today or yesterday recently.
Oh,
it's bad out there. How was everyone else's 2022? Any like key pivotal moments or learnings or journeys?
I'll jump in. So, hey, a key accomplishment or proud moment is I spoke on this community's event back in April, which was kind of the thing that broke the ice to get me to start kind of sharing my experience and point of view. And I joined, I think, like 4 different Slack communities for community people and things like that over the course of the year, but proud to begin kind of networking or at least following the thought leadership of others in the industry. So I'm connected to a lot of people. My LinkedIn feed is now mostly community stuff, which is interesting. It's bringing a lot of inspiration, ideas, and unfortunately a lot of layoff news, which is not fun. Yeah, and then on, you know, key learnings, we have had a number of rounds of layoffs over the last 12 years ourselves, including last week. I've been fortunate enough to have survived all of those. But my role from when I joined is quite different from what I signed up for. It was to come in and like build a team and grow a team and things like that. And I had a direct report when I started. And then when he moved on to a different role, you know, that was when all of this change and you know, reduction in the workforce started happening. So like backfilling that role wasn't approved. And so all of a sudden I was faced with, you know, being the strategic leader who's also the primary executor as well. And then through multiple reorganizations, my chief stakeholders have changed multiple times and a lot of departures in the organization. So it was a year of change, but it was nice investing in my own professional development in, you know, following people and, you know, getting my point of view out there, doing a couple of webinars and a case study with our vendor and things like that. Ups and downs, but happy to, you know, feel fortunate for the circumstances. Given the circumstances that I still have a job, even though it's quite different. So key learning is you can be strategic and do a lot of stuff, but it's tough and time management is and automation is something that's really become a priority for me in a way that I didn't think it would be a year ago.
Danny, I'd actually love to hear a little bit about, and I'm sure there are people on this call who don't know you, a little bit about kind of your journey and how did you find community? Like, were you originally hired to be community, and how did you find observations, and how are you? I see you, you know, popping up more and more. How are you finding ways to get involved and learning along the way?
Yeah, well, a longtime former colleague of mine, Kayla, is on the line as well. We've both since moved on, but I mentioned that because we worked for a place where community was the product. It is a company called America's SAP Users Group, or ASUG. It's an independent community of customers and partners of SAP before community was a thing and before a best practice. And a whole like tech association came to be, and it was membership based. And so community was the product. It was started in 1991, so over 30 years old, right, if I'm doing my math. So I worked there for over 11 years with Kayla, and so developed a lot of like volunteer-based user group programs, chapters, industry and different persona groups, a lot of webinars and different events and things like that. And then I hopped over to my current company, Uncork, which is a 5-year-old no-code development startup, because I wanted to see what community was like from a B2B vendor space. And so the unique thing for me, at least working at my last job, was community was our product, and there's a lot similar to the community industry, but a lot of the stuff out there, community with support, community with product and things like that wasn't really relevant in that previous world. But it's informed a lot of my point of view that I've been trying to share on as a community manager and leader, is thinking about community as product. And some professional development I did was in the product management space, and learning some, and I think actually that's what I talked about here last April, but thinking about, the different features and programs within your community from a product mindset. One, I think that goes well with operations, because then how do you operationalize that? But then two, it helps answer the what's in it for me for the people you're trying to engage. But all of that said, the last 18 months or so kind of being more in a traditional community role, right? At where community is not your product. It's, a lot of the conversations out there, the webinars, the community manager conversations about stakeholder alignment, partnering with different parts of the business has been incredibly relevant. So it's nice to learn from what people are writing and sharing. It's been good. But then also, like, I think that background that I shared offers some unique experiences and perspectives. So it's kind of been both to connect, to learn from others, as well as to kind of share some of the things that I found have helped me be successful in my new role.
Yeah, that's awesome. And everybody, if you ever have any questions on Insighted or Zapier, Danny is a true expert at it. He's helped me on several occasions. So I guess I'm opening you up for conversations, Danny. Sorry about that.
But I mean, that's why I
he's
joined.
great.
And I guess to put more finely, my biggest learning is, so I have an arts background, and to your question about like coming into community, I started as a temp at my last job, and then 6 months later was hired full-time, and then had the opportunity to move up and grow a lot over the decade plus that I was there. But all of like working in tech now and using technology was not anything I studied. I studied being an actor. And I remember in my studies, studying playwriting at one point, and, the blank page is really a challenge. And where I'm going with this is, a friend of mine in my class always complained when like we would have writing assignments that had like restriction, like it had to be like just a 1-page scene, or like a scene with no dialogue. And he was like, well, why can't I just write whatever? And one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that like challenges or restrictions inspire like creativity and better solutions. And so no longer having a direct report to do the primary moderation and community management, and then having to be, the person who wears all hats, from events to moderation to strategy and new features and cross-functional alignment with stakeholders and reporting, all of the stuff I kind of was forced into exploring automation opportunities is just to keep my head above water, and
Yeah.
now found, you know, a lot of success through, you know, teaching myself or learning like basics like Zapier stuff, and it allows me to roll out a lot of creative solutions that not just get the job done, but actually like create a better experience or like incentivize other community members to participate. So pretty proud of
Definitely.
that. But yes, in last thought on all of that is in my last job, I saw a lot of presentations around artificial intelligence, machine learning, automation, et cetera.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of scary stuff to that. I too am scared by it, and the GPT thing is quite interesting over the last couple months. But the thing those presentations always said is that like automation helps move human activities to like higher value, higher impact work, the types of things that only we can do. So that's been a cool thing of like finding ways to do some moderation stuff that can be like high volume and just like really burn you out, or tedious, or that normally a more entry level, you know, position would be taken care of, or something like that, and finding ways to automate elements of that. Because now hopefully when I do get to grow my team in the future, I'm allowing that person to come in and like build relationships or
sure.
develop programs and like hire for different skill sets, and then also give that person better opportunities, and not just like, you know, make sure these questions get answered and solved and marked and things like that.
Yeah, that's great. Definitely think that AI is going to be an interesting evolution of the community space for sure. You mentioned Zapier. Speaking of Zapier, Steph Nakano, I'm going to put you on the spot. Tell me a little bit about your 2022. I know that you went through a job change. You're in a new role. Yeah, you had quite a journey as well in last year.
Yeah, so as Tiff said, I departed Zapier, Zapier's community team, and went over to Coda. And in 2022, I landed at Salesforce, and it's quite a ride because now I oversee all of Salesforce's internal community for all employees. It is quite a bit of like, I didn't think it was that big, and shout out to Kayla, I know she's on the here as well. I didn't think the role was that impactful. I didn't think it was like that big, and then I get here and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I see Kayla like smiling because she knows like how enormous this is, and I was not prepared for this shift in not just responsibility but also visibility. And it's a good change because I think that I was getting complacent a little bit in my previous roles, where I was looking more towards working in a team setting or trying to create that 0 to 1 experience as the head of community over at Coda. But for what it's worth, like this role that I'm in now has like completely transformed the way I think community growth and community management is, because I can't ban my colleagues. I know we're all laughing because it's true. It's part of like moderation, but I, am a part of so many amazing conversations with some of these thought leaders in Salesforce, and we're really pioneering a lot of different things that we're not going to see just yet. But I'm, fingers crossed, hoping that it will become part of our field and our industry to practice and how we transform internal communities. So yeah, 2022 was ridiculously deep, and
Question about internal communities. Is that like helping internal community members connect more with the different communities, or is that like they literally have their own platform and they're talking and asking questions to, like it's their own community but just made up of internal people?
That's a really good question, Cassie. Just for clarification, Salesforce is actually the parent company of Slack. So a lot of the work that I do in Slack is with the partnership of the immediate Slack teams, whether it's product, business technology, or the Slack community team. And as Tiff mentioned, she came from the Trailblazer team. Like, I actually will speak sometimes to the Trailblazer team if we are trying to enhance a Slack experience, especially for the Trailblazer program. So it's everything. It's everything from the user success and the usability of Slack, all the way down to how we use Slack to empower our company and how it transforms like our communication, how we are productive, and how we, even manage and encourage our team to grow and build, as we all do here at Salesforce.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
It is interesting with Salesforce in particular because the Trailblazer community members, the customers, are so bought in and so engaged. And when you have internal things, like for example, the layoffs, I still have a lot of like Trailblazer, people on my Twitter feed, and it was a lot. And then so you're kind of, it's kind of a flywheel of, internal community, external community, how they're working together, how you face, obviously the layoffs, I think were an exception case in terms of like a fire that's being lit or a dumpster fire that needs to get put out. But interesting, the dynamics between internal community, external community, and your teams, and how you have to work together to also provide a united front to those particular communities as well.
Absolutely. And just to quickly add to that, internal communities are becoming a source of, even like in the press, like it's a spotlight within the press now. If you notice that with all the layoffs that are happening, there's a lot of internal communications that's being leaked out. That internal communication is being hosted somewhere, right? Whether it's Google or here or Microsoft, it really doesn't matter. It's internally based. And so you are like, our industry is going to see that internal communities are having a very big impact, especially now that there's a lot of dynamics and changes with how we're hiring or not hiring or conducting layoffs. An example of this was recently Salesforce has been in the news, but internal communications has been leaked out, and a lot of that is sourced from Slack. And unfortunately, we are starting to see like how important community management plays a significant role in how these comms are either published, shared, or otherwise perceived. So that's what I think in 2023, looking forward, that the trend will kind of veer towards, which is like internal communications and internal community management will start to blend a little bit, simply because of how not private some of these things are shown to become.
That's very interesting. I know you have a meeting right now, so I want to be mindful of your time, but thanks for joining and that input. Kayla, I would love to hear your side. Not to put you on the spot, but what's your role at Salesforce? How have you been experiencing this whole, I guess, like recent upturn of attention within the community?
Yeah, thanks. It's nice to meet everybody and see everybody. So my role is kind of evolving right now because in addition to the global workforce reduction that happened at the beginning of this month, there was also a reorg. So Tiffany, I'm actually on your old team now. I'm part of the Trailblazer marketing organization now. So my role is I was previously running the community for Sales Cloud. And so what we're trying to do now is, or we've been trying to amplify that community and make it really like a premier destination, not just for Sales Cloud users, but for sales. So it's been an interesting conversation to navigate this year because, we are a tech company first and foremost. That is what Salesforce is famous for serving, for selling. But now we want to try to become like a premier destination for thought leadership. And regardless of whether you're using Salesforce or HubSpot or any other CRM, we're trying to build this kind of premier destination for sales. So we'll see how it goes. We're planning to launch officially in the spring, and I'm part of the team that's leading that project. So it's professionally very exciting, but it's also been a little bit, Danny and I were texting about this morning, actually. It's been like a little bit like scary to start the year this way because, everyone's still trying to find their footing in the wake of kind of this shift in the organization. So trying to launch a project cross-functionally in the wake of that has been very interesting.
Gotcha. Wow.
Kayla, that's
Um,
really interesting that that's the direction you all are headed. I remember reading an article like I think probably 9 months ago or so about like a next wave of communities for like B2B is that you don't want to just be the community for your product, but for your industry, right? And I think the biggest ROI there is if you can do that right, then it can nurture a lot of pipeline for you. But I haven't suggested that we've established I'm a team of one, but we're trying to, create a category or pioneer an open standard and, differentiate ourselves in the no code space. And when I think about that type of thing, it just kind of blows up the scope of your community so much to like the types of conversations from like very specific, how do I do this and why? And like, who else has done X, Y, and Z? And to introduce like, to be platform agnostic is quite a bit. I mean, flip side, a lot of sales content and best practices are gonna, be universal or have, applicable value for everything. But from like a customer success and like support parts of community, that seems really be a big challenge that you all are tackling.
Yeah, 100%. It'll be interesting to see kind of how it grows, because and this is something that I'm interested in from an operations perspective, which is, the community landscape, I think, is shifting a lot. Like when I first started in community, this was not a specialty. Like this was not something that people did. Like there were other people out there who did like community management, but like my parents thought that I was managing an apartment complex. And I'm being candid. Like they didn't know what community management was. So
they are called
it's
community managers.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy.
It's been fulfilling to see the discipline evolve so much over the last 10 years, but I'll also say that to Danny's point, like the product is also evolving in and of itself. So I'm excited to just participate in groups like this to try to keep ahead of those trends, to make sure that we're operationalizing for the future and not just like waiting for it to kind of trip us up on the backslide.
For sure. Hi, Diego.
Hey.
Looks like you.
Yes, before we jump to the next point, I have been doing that, like working on thought leadership about design. I work for Envision. Envision is a whiteboard, online whiteboard tool that it's really, really great. But I'm working with design leaders all the time. I mean, it's like, I forgot his name, sorry. It's not about how to do things or which better is better than, which look is better or what product is better. It's about leadership, management, strategy, but they happen to be design leaders. And we have been using this community of almost 4,000 design leaders, like managers, VPs, principals, chiefs, heads, all of these great people. But we are not using this community as a sales point. It's more of a support group sponsored by Envision, right? It's not like we don't sell anything there. Thank God, I don't have those metrics that I need MQLs or anything. But we are doing that because Envision believes in design leadership, in product leadership. So that's why they have me. I've been working with community in the other parts of the business, but my main goal is to advance the practice of design leadership through community. I just wanted to let you know that I've been doing that, and I want to talk to you, Kayla and Danny, because I think we can do something together later. So thank you.
Ooh, some collaboration opportunity, maybe. Great, thanks for sharing, Diego. All right, so we had a couple people join since we kicked it off. We're kind of going over our 2022 learnings and how our years went. Does anyone have any other stories that they'd like to share? Or learnings, or I don't know, pivotal moments?
I do selfishly want to share 2 big accomplishments that happened this year that were work related.
Go girl.
There are some links in the chat. If you've joined an event in the past, you've probably heard about Common Room, but we stood up Common Room. And the reason, which is basically like a 360 view of all your members, not even in just your first party channels, but maybe in third party channels like Reddit or YouTube. But the reason why this is such a big accomplishment is because it was the first time that we integrated, like Atlassian ever integrated with our data lake. So there was it took like a year before we can get a lot of our information and data like pushed into Common Room to tell us a better story about like who's a partner, who's a leader, what license type, what account level are you at. And it literally took a year to get everything integrated and go through all the privacy and security steps. So that to me was a big accomplishment. And also I really enjoyed the platform Common Room. And then this last one is Orbit. We recently, or last year, launched this program. We're calling it Community Connection. So as a lot of you may know, as community professionals, we're really good at like one-to-many. So like having conversations on our online community, going to events, and there's a lot of different people. Orbit allows us to curate those one-to-one connections. So, and we got a lot of feedback from our community. Right now, we just piloted it with our community leaders. We hope to do it in our online groups and for members at community events. But we've gotten a lot of feedback that people are just so excited to meet other people like them. And it's always good to launch something that really resonates with other people versus us just being like, I think this will be great. From years of research, we've heard from our leaders, like we want more one-on-one time together with people like me to chat. So that platform allowed us to do that and our leaders were happy. So that was 2 accomplishments that I wanted to share and selfish plug to both of those tools that are really helpful.
Cassie, 1, congrats. 2, you said people are happy, so the adoption of the Orbit one-to-one thing seems to be going well.
Yes, it's actually great. I published an internal blog because it was going so well. So maybe I can just share that in our post-event slides. But basically, I think we had real quickly 7 different match rounds, 181 opt-ins, and a 92 NPS.
92 NPS.
Girl, yes. And then I'm going to put this video in there. This is one of our leaders just talking about his experience. So if you want to just click it later, I'm like, this is a perfect review for Orbit. They should pay us for this bit. But yeah, no, a lot of people were really happy. One of the quotes I'll just say is, I've always wondered about doing an Atlassian certification and how much time it requires. Talking to my peer gave me a bit better impression, and I finally might try to do one. So it's like taking them also one step further down our like champion trail of, just getting more engaged with our brand. So win-win.
That's great. That was a big hot button issue for Kayla and I at our last job is, we did a lot of events and everybody was like, well, how do we connect people, especially when the pandemic hit? How do you do virtual networking? So I've been kind of, keeping an eye on, Orbit and Meetsy and some of these solutions. But then also internally, we have the donut bot for Slack that, matching people together. And I see dwindling like success in it matching people. And like myself, when I first joined the company, I would did every single one they set me up with, and then you get busy and it's tough to prioritize. So I've been wondering what application within a community is like. If we were to do that, I would really kind of look to benchmark some numbers, right? Because it's not going to be 100% of the connections made are going to also meet and have a conversation. Probably going to be much lower, but if the feedback and the satisfaction is high, that's great.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk more offline if you have questions about how many people like that drop off rate. Because similar to an event, people sign up and then maybe day of don't log in. So happy to chat more about that if you'd like.
As a little precursor to 2023, one of the things that we're thinking about experimenting with observations is they do this at Salesforce for App Exchange, which is their marketplace, where they do these competitions where people have, I think it's 1 minute to do a live demo or pitch their product. Actually, it has to be a live demo. And it's just a very quick lightning round of all these different platforms and tools and things. And we're thinking about maybe doing something like that as well, where, different platforms and tools can come in and do a quick demo and then maybe do follow-ups afterwards. So maybe that's something that people would be interested in.
Yeah.
Cool. Jake, want to pass the mic over to you. How was your 2022? And then I think due to time, let's also start rolling into 2023 if you have any insights or goals that you want to achieve this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna get very, very internal, I guess, very personal for a second. Not deep personal, just about me versus the industry. So 2022 was a very difficult personal year for me for a bunch of different reasons. And on top of that, those personal reasons, I've been doing this a long time. I've been, in some sort of community leadership or community consulting for almost 25 years or so now. And I just, the pandemic did a number on me. And, if you've been to my dinner five, I think, Tiffany, you probably even heard me say this before, but the pandemic did a number on me as far as my community capability, right? Because there's a certain level of necessity for faith in humanity that we all require for community work. And if that gets shaken, not only your faith in humanity, but your ability to do the job with enthusiasm can get difficult too. And I think seeing some of this, it was one thing in the pandemic to watch things break down and people get to be idiots with each other, and see community channels turn into devolve, let's just say. But I think even if we came out of that, a lot of the hope that we had all had, and I'd heard a lot of people be very optimistic about this, all these new things, it's going to change everything. Finally, people understand. And, I think, I was watching even from early in 2022, a drop in that level of faith, or, here we know we can't do what we used to do. So you community team, go do some cool stuff. We started to see that ever so slowly kind of return back to center, right, where we were before the pandemic. I think there's been plenty of things that have changed in a bunch of ways, so which is good. But it's also, it was kind of sad watching that stuff kind of go back to normal. And I'm using my quotey fingers because it didn't fully go back to where it was before pandemic. But I mean, here we are on Zoom doing a meeting that we're all fairly comfortable connecting on, right? So, I've been kind of sad to watch some of those growth points retract, and it was kind of a rough year. But the whole point of this story is that what I've been trying to share as much as I can, just to help everybody else have the same benefit and experience I did, was that I actually found so I have a number of hobbies, including photography and scale modeling, and the scale modeling stuff got to be a whole lot more of a thing during the pandemic because we were all at home, right? But much easier to do than trying to go, photograph people out in the world. But I found a Facebook group that was extremely well run, had a good group of people that were, scale modeling is like building miniatures. I build a lot of like 1/35th scale military and civilian vehicles and dioramas and that sort of thing.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah, and I've been doing it forever, but it was, there was sort of a rejuvenated interest just because we didn't have a whole lot to do in the pandemic, right? And so when that kicked back into gear, I started paying a little bit more attention to online channels. And what snuck up on me in 2022, hard to say, is how much value I got out of participating in a very well-run community group, and how much it reminded me of the fact that me doing community for me personally really helped me rejuvenate some of that faith in humanity that's so important, right? Faith in community too. It helped me to see an outside perspective from what I was doing, right? It was a Facebook group. It wasn't a traditional, brand community. It wasn't for work. It was for fun. It was for a very specific hobby instead of, B2B tech support, whatever it might be that I was working on for clients. And I don't know, I was just really, I've been trying to share this as much as I can because it really rejuvenated my interest in a way that taking a vacation wouldn't have done, didn't do. Getting cool new projects didn't necessarily do. But watching that hobby-oriented, very well-run group bring me in, make me want to show up, feel connected to a lot of people that I wouldn't otherwise met, and of course, kicked off things like finding out that one of the guys that I'd really respected his work and followed his stuff and really liked the cut of his jib, so to speak, turns out he's in Austin. And I was like, holy shit, I've been following your stuff for like 15 years, 10 years, however long it's been, 10 years, I guess. And I had no idea you were in Austin. I've been here that whole time. Let's get together. So it's created a really cool friendship that's really driven. So, it's just a good reminder that, if we're not sort of experiencing that passion for ourselves, it's hard to do it for our customers, members, clients, whoever.
Totally. I had asked in the chat selfishly, what did you love about how that community group was run before I kind of move into 2023?
Yeah, very quickly. I think so the guy that is in charge of it has done a good job of finding some other folks to help him admin it. And they do a good job of making him sort of the presence, the face, so to speak, but everybody has a really good vibe on alignment on how they moderate it, right? So it's funny because he's a very gruff engineer, right? A literal engineer, and really doesn't take much shit from anybody about much of anything, and is always eager and willing to put somebody in timeout or kick them out of the group if they're acting a fool, and talks a lot about that. Is very clear about that, and his admins that are helping him are very much behind the scenes, but have a very clear connection to that same culture and vibe and rules. He's done a really good job of focusing on promoting his own content as a way to model behavior for others. So how he goes about building, he's got credibility because he's a great modeler, but also he's doing a good job of sharing the kinds of things that he does that work really well, and also the stuff that just screws up really badly. I mean, self-deprecating posts about how he really screwed up, which helps to open up everybody else. The gentle and firm guidance he gives when people post nonsense content and don't really add the right set of details so that other people can understand what that is about. He's also coupled it with a really good podcast. So that kind of gives a live version, so to speak, a quasi live version of his personality and the vibe and all that sort of thing. So it's just it's nothing all that unique per se. It's just very
What to expect,
aggressively on point, right?
Yeah,
it's a great culture.
I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
awesome. Tiff, I know we got
helps.
about 9 more minutes, so do we want to kind of rapid fire through 2023 and then go over what's coming next for ops?
Yeah, let's do it. First of all, thank you everyone for sharing your 2022. I know that it's, I think with the Zoom fatigue, the pandemic fatigue, I do, Jake, see your point completely about not necessarily losing the faith in humanity, but kind of just starting to see it rear its ugly head a little bit. And sometimes you kind of have to take a step back and you're like, why am I doing this? Why, am I just glorified support or what have you? But then I also see you get those, you also get those moments like Kathy's quote, or you have a community member reach out to you and be like, oh, that event really meant a lot to me, or oh, I just met someone and they really helped me solve a problem. And it's kind of those little things that keep you going. But I definitely feel you on that. Okay. Oh, thank you for joining, Steph, if you are still there. Okay, 2023. Do you want to go first, Cassie, or does anyone have really glaring 2023 goals that they want to achieve? And I'll make a note and ping you in June. I'll slide into your DMs, make sure you're on track. Or not.
Mine are really quick. I think I'm just a short and sweet person. I won't take too long, but professionally, I would say I kind of touched on it at the beginning of this call. We are consolidating the swag vendor for the entire customer success and innovation org. And the community is the first one to pilot the vendor. So this quarter, we're doing that, piloting it, but then launching it to the rest of the org next quarter. And then we are going to use Bevy virtual conference for the first time this quarter.
Oh.
So my goal is to like learn, I mean, apparently it's very similar, but just, I guess, learn the ins and outs of that, create a playbook maybe, or best practices for our leaders. We will be running the first 2 conferences, but then opening it up to leaders. So that would be professional, and then personal, just because I want to share with y'all, for the first time ever, I will be coaching T-ball with my husband this spring for my son. He's 6 years old. I've never coached anything in my life. So I've never played baseball or softball. So there's that. I just really like kids and want to get involved more in the community. So I might have more stories to share about that. What about you, Tiff?
Right. I have 2 points before you move on. Number one, if you need any help with Bevy virtual conference, we use that on Salesforce, and I can help you a bit.
Okay.
And then let's see, for me, oh yeah, Jake, please go ahead and talk about Dinner 5 too. We'd love to. I think that would be a great thing in 2023 for people to attend. Okay, so professional goals. Salesforce has been like, I was a user, I had implemented it, I have my admin certification, then I worked there, and that's been the only CRM that I've like kind of ever known. But at Talkbase, and more so, HubSpot is coming up more and more in conversations. And so I need to learn HubSpot. That's actually one of my 2023 goals. So just being more involved in their community. So, you know, Evan and I are actually chatting later this afternoon, and, you know, taking their courses and things like that. So I think that's something that I've actually had a hard time picking up. I think just because I'm so used to how Salesforce runs their CRM, and it's a new world for me. I'm also going to be slowly working on my website. And I talked to Cassie about this yesterday, but I feel like there historically has kind of been a pressure or internal pressure for me to get into community consulting. And though I am open to, you know, various opportunities, I realize that that's not what my like passion is. Like, I want to be able to go the extra mile and really do what I can do to impact a business and impact their community and their ops and their processes and everything. And I feel like that's kind of stuck in a consulting role. And so, you know, working to really help put out thought leadership and best practices and things out in the open by continuing observations, by, you know, I did the workshop at the CMX Summit that I thought was really fulfilling, by doing blogs. Cassie and I have another exciting observations announcement to make as well. So just trying to do that rather than really focusing on consulting, I think is where my passion is. So that's what I'm going to be working on through 2023. And then definitely wanting to continue to speak at conferences and podcasts to kind of just, you know, help spread the word about ops and streamlining it and mainstreaming it more. I mean, personal goals, I have this goal every year is run at least 1 mile a day or 365 miles in the year. So if I miss one, I run 2 the next day, it's fine. I want to do 20 books, and I'm at 0 right now, so I have some work to do on that. And then, yeah, working on like flossing more. That's me.
I love
All
those
right.
ones. Should I go to this next one? Is that where that's where we're
Yeah,
headed?
I guess, yes. Oh, that's an old slide. Don't show that. No.
No, y'all didn't see nothing. Okay.
I didn't
we're
update that.
done.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you for sharing your goals. Jake, would you like to do a 30-second elevator pitch on Dinner 5? And then I'd love to talk about the next one too. Next.
Yeah, sure. Very quickly.
event.
About 4 years ago, I put together a monthly event series, gone virtual since the pandemic, that is for senior community leaders and people with high levels of community experience. Sounds like we're all in that group here. Mainly for the goal of getting sort of a cone of silence conversation. I always talk about connection, conversation, camaraderie amongst other folks like us. I was prompted to build this event series a long time ago, mainly because I was frustrated that all the events I went to were a lot of junior people, and I kept saying, "Where are my peers? Where are the ones that have a bunch of experience?" And I know at least a couple of you, Cassie and Tiffany, you've both been. It's really great, wonderful, connecting conversation that can really only come from those intimate types of events with a small number of people. So it's only 5 people. Every event since even through the pandemic has had food at it of some sort. But yeah, really, really great time, and just a really worthwhile activity for senior folks to find other senior folks and connect and share. And and again, in the kind of a cone of silence type of environment, so you can really open up and share what you're struggling with. And if you're interested, you can go to dinner5.org and sign up, and I'll reach out. And we'll have a quick phone call and just make sure you're a good fit for the event, like I do with every person who's ever attended, and go from there.
Cool. Highly recommend Dinner 5. Please go join. It's a really great conversation. You meet some really good people and have some really authentic, what's that word? Candid conversations. So cool. All right, we are almost for time. Cassie, do us the honors. Tell us our exciting announcement for the year.
Our exciting announcement for the year. We are starting a podcast. So we will, like, just to not bury the lead, we are going to start a podcast. It will be Tiff and I sharing our different experiences. We've already kind of got a little lightweight content calendar with different topics that we want to discuss. There might be a few episodes where we bring people in to speak as well. So there will be more information at our next event on the different topics, maybe a schedule, solidify that a little bit more. But we wanted to let y'all know, the people who joined our first meeting this year, that is in store for us, and you will be able to catch us on a podcast pretty
All
soon.
About ops. So that'll be fun. All right, I know we're for time. Thank you everyone for joining. This was a really good conversation. Please feel free to reach out to us at any time, ops4community@gmail.com. Next month's topic for our observations meeting is going to be maintaining and managing vendor relationships. So stay tuned for a save the date on that. It'll probably be towards the end of Feb. But yeah, thank you so much. It was nice seeing all of you, and talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining.
Anytime.
You.
Bye.
Thanks.